Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, OP was financially well off, married his wife at a young age, and they enjoyed a comfortable life together. However, their situation changed when the man's parents faced medical bills, and he asked his wife to cut back on her spending to help support his family. This request led to conflicts as she struggled to limit her expenses, eventually exceeding their agreed-upon budget. Suspicious of her activities, he put a GPS tracker on her car and discovered that she was visiting a specific address frequently. To his shock, he found evidence of an affair in her secret messages, where she planned revenge on him for suspected infidelity. Enraged by her betrayal, he confronted her, and she left. He filed for divorce, and she ended up homeless, seeking help from her church. The man eventually moved on and found a new partner, while his financial situation improved, and his mother's health recovered. He concluded by cautioning against materialistic individuals and urged others to remain hopeful in the face of betrayal. This story highlights issues of trust, betrayal, and the consequences of materialism within a relationship. The mayor to my wife 30 was all fun and games until I 31 needed her to compromise with me. When we got married at 24 and 25 years old, I was extremely well off already. I'd been working at my father's company since I was 18 and had several raises over that time and savings built up. My wife was able to get her nails and hair done whenever she wanted. I bought her a nice car and made sure it was always safe and legal. She didn't have anything to worry about, and she got everything she wanted. She was a good wife to me and never acted suspiciously or unhappy. The only thing I expected of her was to be there and have dinner ready when I got home from work. It all changed when my dad began struggling to pay medical bills for my mom. I told him I was more than willing to help, but it meant I had to tell my wife to cut back on her spending. I asked her to spend less than $200 a month on pointless things. Of course, I didn't say it was pointless spending. I called it fun money. She was appalled. She didn't know how to spend as little as $200. I told her this sacrifice was for my mom, but that didn't seem to justify it for her. 1 month later, while I was doing our expenses, I calculated that she spent $821 over what we could afford. When I confronted her about it, she blew up on me. She said she couldn't possibly stop buying the things she needed to survive. When I asked her what she was talking about, she named a haircut, nail fillings, a new purse, bath and body works, new clothes, and new shoes. I could tell she really believed she needed these things. I was starting to realize I married a heartless, materialistic woman. I told her this couldn't happen again. My dad and mom needed our financial help for a while, and it wasn't asking very much of her. She still didn't like it, but she said she would try harder. The next month, while I reviewed our purchases, I found she got gas in a town 2 hours away. This shocked me. I had no idea she even left town. I decided it was much better not to bring it up with her. Instead, I got a GPS tracker and put it on her car. I was going to accumulate proof that she was using my money to see someone behind my back. Surprisingly, that month, her spending decreased from $821 over to only $305 over. Still bad, but she tried. I told her she was doing better, but I needed her to cut back even more. She wasn't as upset as she was the first time, which actually raised a red flag for me. Was she spending someone else's money? 1 month later? I had a record of all the trips my wife made while I was at work. There was a lot of shopping in a town that was 2.5 hours away. It didn't make sense because her spending was way down. Only $168 total. What was happening? That's when I discovered she made trips to a specific neighborhood address 2.5 hours away. She visited this address and places near it on 10 days out of the month. On 5 other days, she went shopping in our area but didn't spend any money. How was that possible? I knew at this point she had to be seeing someone else. Someone that provided money. My wife was pretty simple-minded and her password for everything was the same for years. I finally caved in and got into her phone while she slept. I found a secret messaging app which involved text conversation with someone programmed as lover. How disturbing. My heart was pounding as I read their conversation. which started 2.5 months ago, around the same exact time I told her she needed to cut back on her spending. She complained to this person that she was being cheated on but didn't want to go through a divorce until she got revenge. So she lied to this man, and he gladly volunteered to sleep with her. He was a lonely older man who had money to spare because he was a lawyer. She found her perfect target. They sent each other pictures of private areas, and she thanked him for treating her to things. In response to that, he thanked her for the intimate. I can't tell you how mad I was. I never felt this level of betrayal. I woke her up and demanded she leave the house. She was shocked and offended, but all I had to do was throw her phone outside and she followed it. I locked all the doors and threw her car keys out the window. I shouted that she was lucky I even let her take the car because I bought it. She was crying and making excuses. I told her I saw everything she said to her lover, noticed the change in her spending habits, and had her GPS location throughout the month. She had the nerve to be upset with me. She screamed outside my house for an hour before she finally got in her car and drove away. The GPS showed she went to AP's house. I filed for divorce, and before it was even finalized, AP told her he didn't want her to live with him. He wasn't ready for a serious relationship. He just wanted to have some fun. I knew this because my wife confided in her pastor when she was homeless and begging the church for money. He was confused because as far as he knew, we were still married. While begging for money, she asked him to pray for her. I think she needs more than prayer. Word got around in our church and a single lady approached me and asked me on a date. Shortly after that, the divorce was final and my wife only got to keep her car. Everything else was mine. Due to the proof I had against her, my mom managed to recover from her health issues. And my income went back to normal in less than a year. That was the best part. Out of all of this, I made sure to tell my ex that she left me because she was materialistic and impatient. I hope my story encourages everyone to be hopeful in the face of betrayal. Life goes on, even if it doesn't involve that person anymore. Also, don't fall for any materialistic girls, because they have a lot of growing up to do. Here are my thoughts on the situation. I'm truly sorry that your wife didn't show patience or consideration for you and your mom by cutting back on her spending. Some people have no choice but to live on a tight budget, with just $1,000 a month. Yet, she was upset about temporarily giving up her fake nails. It can be difficult to know if someone is with you for who you are or for other reasons. I hope that your wife could have been more thoughtful and empathetic in her actions, thinking about others instead of just herself when she decided to spend someone else's money. Materialism can be harmful, leading to a never-ending desire for more things. Discovering the true meaning and purpose in life is far more fulfilling than accumulating stuff and wasting time and money. It's a relief that you managed to come out on top in the divorce, and I'm glad to hear that your mom is doing better now. Thank you for sharing your story, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Today's second story. This is the story of a 20-year marriage that took a dramatic turn when the husband discovered his wife's long-term affair. The husband noticed a decline in their relationship, leading to his investigation and the hiring of a private investigator. Shockingly, the affair had been ongoing for 3.5 years, and the wife had multiple other affairs as well. The situation escalated when the wife and her affair partner discussed poisoning the husband's food, prompting him to cancel his life insurance. Ultimately, the husband confronted his wife, leading to a divorce. The story concludes with the husband finding peace and serenity in his post-divorce life, despite financial challenges and custody arrangements with their children. Now let's get into the story. We got married in the year 2000, had 2 kids, and lived a generally happy life of a working couple. A few years ago, her interest in our relationship started tapering down. Whenever I brought it up, she'd attribute it to her work and the responsibilities of the kids. She'd showered me with some extra attention for a few days and we'd move on. The discovery day was Valentine's Day in 2020. We had planned to cook together at home. When I returned home from work that day, she wasn't there. I checked her location on Find My iPhone and she was at her favorite restaurant. She returned home drunk later and passed out. I checked her phone and found messages between her and the affair partner. We had shared our respective passcodes with one another. However, she had been very diligent about physically guarding her phone and deleting all their communications right away. But she missed the last few on account of being drunk. Also, it was the first time in years she had left her phone unattended. It usually went everywhere with her, even in the shower. She had been sleeping with her phone under the pillow for the past few years. After some time, I finally had confirmation of the affair and the identity of who the affair partner was and still is. It turned out that he was a colleague of hers. He's married too. I chose not to confront the wayward spouse right away. I had been developing a growing awareness that she was becoming a masterful and smooth liar. Anytime she needed to explain her whereabouts, she would come up with a perfectly plausible excuse at the spur of the moment. I wasn't expecting anything out of confronting her other than being buried with 1,000 lies, such as it being a harmless flirtation or just a quick one-time indiscretion. I needed to know the depth of her affair. I instinctively knew it pretty much at this point, but I wanted solid data. I hired a private investigator and put some security cameras outside my home to see who was coming and going. The PI obtained the security footage at her favorite restaurant going back over a year. Many times I was able to overhear her talking on her phone at home. When she didn't think I was around or within earshot, the information came in through a fire hose. Their affair had been going on for 3.5 years at this point. Wayward spouse and affair partner had been privately gloating about being able to keep it a secret from their respective spouses for this long. Their prevailing sentiment was that if their respective spouses hadn't discovered the truth, everything, including the very affair, had to be their own fault. More details kept coming. Her penchant for unprotected sex, her pregnancy by a affair partner and an abortion she had, as well as their home visits during lunch hours for sex, phone sex when they couldn't meet, and dissing everyone around them. I was shocked by how thoroughly contemptuous she was towards even those of her friends who absolutely adored her. She has such a planet-sized network of them. Other than her brother, parents, and 2 kids, this woman had nothing other than contempt towards every single human being. I've always known her to use superficial charm to get validation, companionship get her way, or just influence friends to behave to her liking. I was still shell-shocked by discovering the real her, as my understanding of a narcissistic personality was very shallow at the time. The PI gave me names of the other affairs she had had or was still carrying on. She also slept with her boss, among others, as an example. Just when I thought it had been all there was, little did I know that there was a plot twist in the offing. The communications between her and affair partner started referring to killing a certain somebody by poisoning their food. She suddenly developed a recent penchant for making food for me, even though we had not been talking for weeks at this time. At the first reference to the killing, I stopped consuming anything she cooked for me. I only ate the food intended for the whole family, and even then I wouldn't consume it if everyone else had already taken their share. The first reference to killing was so subtle that it was almost an animal instinct on my part to take such precautions. I felt I was being silly and paranoid. However, their subtleties soon went out of the window as their frustration mounted and their discussions descended into inflamed arguments. A affair partner was urging her to kill me as soon as possible, and she was frustrated because, in her own words, how can I add poison to the whole food? I immediately canceled my life insurance. My mental health had been tapering down for a while and I was struggling to maintain my sanity. Nothing more was to be gained by staying the course. So for the first time in months, I spoke to her. I told her that it was time to start planning for our divorce and that I knew about her and the affair partner. I gave her 4 to 5 quick examples of things that she couldn't believe in her wildest dreams that anyone other than the affair partner and she could have possibly known. I concluded with the assertion that my decision for divorce was 100% final. Moments into the conversation, her eyes went wide and her jaw hit the floor. The whole speech took 2 minutes, and that was the end of a 20-year relationship. It's now been 22 months since the discovery day and 10 since the divorce was fully finalized. My daughter lives with me half the time, and my son lives with my ex-wife full-time. My son had discovered about their affair on his own, as he had been to her work and seen them acting extremely familiar with each other post-divorce. He asked me if his hunch of the affair was true. I confirmed it, but made sure not to add anything more. He spilled the beans about the affair to my daughter too. Child support is pretty punishing in the state I live in, and despite making a 6-figure salary, I'm living on what's essentially poverty wages. I focus on physical and mental health, had 2 brief relationships since the divorce, and hope to land a long-term partner. Every morning I wake up and realize I'm alive and sane. My mind gets filled with serenity. I'm at peace with the world for the first time in ages. Here are my thoughts on the situation. I understand the situation you're describing, where it appears that the user's wife and her affair partner have engaged in harmful behavior. If you believe the user's story has elements of narcissism and psychopathy, it may be a challenging and distressing situation for them. While I can offer general advice on addressing infidelity and difficult relationships, please note that it's essential for the user to consult with a professional therapist or counselor for guidance tailored to their specific circumstances. Communication, seeking support, and considering the well-being of the children are often key aspects of navigating such. Today's third story. In this story, a man suspects his wife of 7 years is hiding something due to her frequent absences. He decides to investigate and follows her to a store where she meets a wealthy man romantically. Shocked and angry, he records their interaction. The wife's secret lover eventually gets arrested, causing her heartbreak. The man leaves her and takes their daughter to live with his grandmother. Their relationship with the wife becomes strained, but the man helps his daughter find her own identity and happiness. Despite the challenges, they reconnect with the wife in time, learning the importance of self-control and forgiveness. Now let's get into the story. I was married to my wife for 7 years. I knew something was up after several times. I had arrived home from work to find only my teenage daughter at home and my wife missing. She'd always tell me what her mom told her to tell me. An example would be that she went grocery shopping to see a woman friend from work, other kinds of shopping, or had to help somebody with something. My daughter never seemed like she was aware she was lying, which is good. I don't think my wife would have the nerve to burden our daughter with any secrets she kept from me. I was so annoyed that I decided to come home a little early. For a few days each time, I sat in my car down the street to see if my wife left. On the third day, she left and I followed her. She got to Boscov's, which gave me relief at first, because maybe she told the truth each time. But then I saw the man she was meeting at the entrance. He was tall, handsome, and rich-looking. He kissed my wife enthusiastically before they went inside. My wife's birthday was the next day, and I swore this seemed like some kind of birthday shopping spree. When I wouldn't be suspicious of her absence, I went inside Boscov's and walked around close enough to see how they interacted. It was extremely romantic behavior. I started filming, and it took a few minutes for me to catch him grabbing her butt. I wanted to set the building on fire. I was so mad. I filmed for as long as I could, but then AP saw me staring at them. I left the building and got to my car, but before I drove away, I saw him come out with my wife's hand in his. She looked concerned and puzzled, trying to see who he was talking about. Hopefully she was feeling panic like I was. I returned home and wondered what I should say to my daughter. She was 17, so kind of old enough to handle adult issues, but either way, it was going to be really upsetting. I told her I saw her mom with another man, so I was going to stay at grandma's for a while. She asked if she could come with me because she'd been thinking about helping grandma with her garden. I thought that was the cutest and most uplifting thing I could have heard at that moment. We packed some bags and left no tears or worrying. Grandma was excited to see us, and I felt like it was all going to be okay. My wife returned shortly after that to our empty house. I left her a note on the counter that I was the one watching them, and I had proof she was romantically involved with him. I told her to enjoy her birthday alone in an empty house because that's what she deserved. Unfortunately, the house was hers, so she was able to keep living there. But she couldn't have AP moving because he got arrested for doing some illegal things. I'm happy to report that my ex was heartbroken. She couldn't believe she betrayed the happy and secure family she built for a man that bought her things and stole stuff. She told me a lot of her honest thoughts on voicemail ramblings. She maintained a distant relationship with our daughter that took years to return to normal. I'm sad to say that she really started to hate the things about herself that reminded her of her mom. I told her she was her own person mixed with two people's DNA and unique among anyone else. I told her she could only be in control of herself, her own decisions, and her emotions. I reminded her that letting hatred or bitterness simmer in your heart only makes that how you behave. I told her to start writing in a journal, and she said I was preaching. But I did notice her seeming more joyful and grateful. A few days later, she gardened with grandma and went to visit her mom sometimes. Here are my thoughts on the situation. I'm sorry that your wife chose to end your marriage and hurt her own daughter in the process. Your daughter used to look up to her mother as a role model for how a good woman should behave. However, your guidance and advice proved to be valuable, and it seems that your daughter learned valuable lessons on how not to behave from her mother's actions. Sometimes, negative examples can be just as instructive as positive ones. Fortunately, you've been a wise and attentive father who was there for her. Your daughter needed some paternal guidance to navigate the challenges and doubts that emerged due to her mother's questionable behavior. It must have been disheartening to witness her shallow and materialistic inclinations, particularly her willingness to be enticed by a man offering material indulgence. Take your time to find a better, more honest woman who deserves your love and trust. My best wishes for you, your daughter, and your grandmother. Thank you for sharing your story.